What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Gifted Hoops podcast. We're officially here for episode 29. That's right, 29 episodes in of the Gifted Hoops podcast. And on this episode, we will be covering the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I'm joined here by a very special guest, great basketball mind, also a spitter himself. Wes, feel free to introduce yourself to the people. How you feeling, man?
Yo, appreciate you having me. Like Gifted said, I am Wes. I do make music and I talk ball, so yeah, just glad to be here. An OKC fan, as you might have guessed. So yeah, we can get into it.
I'm happy to have Wes on here because we've had multiple basketball conversations all throughout the season. So having you on here specifically to, talk about your team. I've never really talked about OKC one-on-one with you like this, so this should be pretty fun. His links and all that will be in the description. Wes, is there anything that you want the people to know?
Nah, just make sure you continue to support Gifted, one of the most genuine people I know, great ball knower, um, and a budding star. So keep supporting my dog, man.
I appreciate you, Brody. I appreciate you. But without further ado, let's get right into it. This podcast can be found on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. All those links will be in the description. But OKC, man, this is a team that has seen a lot of different iterations. A team that had Kevin Durant, Harden, and Russell Westbrook, three MVP guys on one build at a point was here. And then obviously since the Paul George trade and the Russ trade, this team has seen many different builds. Talk to me about your feelings on OKC last year before this year, and what do you think their offseason was like?
Yeah, so as you laid it out, a big roller coaster in our organization, going from drafting three MVPs consecutively, to having to lose KD and get the PG, and then now the SGA era, and the 2022 23 season. I was pleased. I was really pleased as a fan. I thought even with a bunch of injuries and a young roster, with Mark leading the crew and being at the helm, and then SGA being the best player, and leading more so by example, not even having to be too vocal, but showing, hey, the young guys, hey, this is how I got to this point in my career. This is how I got this good at hoops, and just encouraging everyone to continue to improve, progress in the internal development. And I was pleased with our 40 and 42. Like I said, not having Chet all season, never really having a big man at all. Jalen Williams, not J Tub, being 6'9" and having to be our back line of defense the entire year left us without great rim protection. So I thought it was pretty good for us to still win 40 games, get into the play-in, win a game, and it didn't go our way against Minnesota, but I'm eager for the season. You know.
Yeah, man, and I think the right thing to do with OKC is provide context. This is a team that, you know, pretty much every season has tried their best to compete and be competitive. So far in the SJ era, they have tried to acquire a bunch of young talent to have a clear vision. And I feel like last season, before 2022-23, you saw this team have a rough, draft in terms of what they wanted to accomplish. I mean, Shea last year to me was also good. Obviously, he got hurt, so he didn't play as many games. But this was a young team on the rise, and then to draft J Dub and then Chet in one off season was a sensational pickup for OKC. Sadly, as we know, Chet got hurt, but this is a team that just night in, night out played hard, got up and down the court, really focused on developing their young talent. And like you said, Coach Mark is a wizard, because the fact that this team was like a top 10 defense with no real front court depth or size, you got to give
Yeah,
it a whole lot of respect for real.
agreed. Yeah, like I said, I'm happy for our future. Eager to see them this season. Um, and just enjoying, like I said, the internal development, seeing all the guys gel. They seem to get along, and pretty good culture we have. So, you know, and Sam I trust, and Mark I trust, and SGA I trust. Shout out Giddy too, you know.
Hey, listen, I'm a big Josh Giddey fan, as you may know.
I
I'm
know.
not gonna sit here in front. I think every year he's found a way to improve. Obviously, his standstill catch and shoot shooting needs to improve to really, fit on this roster long term. But I feel like the way that he's able to impact the game from a playmaking sense, I can't wait to see that chemistry with Chet in their pick and roll sets. But for Giddey to compliment Shai, like Shai deserves his own credit because this is a guy that coming in, a lot of people weren't really talking about. And now he's gone from that guy to this guy who's a budding superstar. I mean, he had an all NBA caliber season. What were your expectations for Shai coming into the year?
So if I'm super honest, I did expect a leap. Um, I can't say I expected an All NBA first team leap. That was not anything that I had anticipated. I did not expect him to have a top 10 season, even though first team All NBA, says top five, but I think he had a top 10 season, and I was expecting him to improve, like I said, take that leap into truly being an all-star, maybe slotted third team All NBA. But I definitely didn't see what was to come. And I was pleasantly surprised. Was always high on SGA. Was worried about a few things though when it came to his free throw percentage. It wasn't as good as I felt like it could be, and he cleaned that up. And he had a 10% jump, which is insane. You don't see things like that. An 80% free throw shooter became one of the best free throw shooters in the league. And if you go off volume with percentage, he was the best free throw shooter in the league last year, which is pretty insane. Um, and then the shooting splits, they were always solid, but he just became even more polished last year, and took everything up a notch. So pleased to see that.
Yeah, Shai's mid-range progression this year was ridiculous. He was one of the best in between guys in the league, but in terms of what he does best, this guy, even last year, this guy was leading the NBA in drives per game. And this year, the way that he was just consistently getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line, things like those are talents that will transcend a regular season. Obviously, we haven't gotten a chance to see Shai, or this version of Shai specifically, in a true playoff setting, but Shai Gilgeous absolutely, for this regular season, put this OKC team on his back and play at a very high level. For me, I look at Shai as a player that I'm very interested in because in terms of what NBA history will say, that Clippers trade where it's Kawhi, in the background basically, Paul George, and all of these picks, they threw Shai in the deal, and now we're legitimately speaking on Shai, who for a lot of people is probably better right now than Paul George to be a
Mm-hmm.
superstar caliber talent. The better that Shai gets and what OKC is able to accomplish off of the heels of this trade is really going to say a lot in the next 5 to 6 years. Where do you see this team in that time span?
The next 5 to 6 years, the fan in me, I really do see us being able to win a Larry OB, man. I think that we've stockpiled a lot of assets, picks and players, and we're just waiting to make the move at the right player. Everyone's always requesting out, seeking a brighter home, and though OKC is in a crazy market, I think we're primed to make any deal that we see fit, given those circumstances. But at the same time, even if we stand packed, I think we'll be definitely Western Conference Finals bound in the next 5 years, 6 years. Um, and SGA will be right in the heart of his prime. He's 25 now. By the time he's 28, now that's a 3 year, four when you include this season, a 4 year outlook. But by the time that 28 to 32 range, if we're able to keep him at OKC, I think the sky's the limit, man. I think anything is possible, especially with the way that Giddy developed this year. And then now seeing him, or this past year, now seeing him move into 23, 24, and watching him during FIBA. He's such a sound player, and he does so many things really well. In the one area, of his game, offensively at least, it's not that great in his shooting. He makes up for it with IQ, his headiness, and playmaking. The ball handle at 6'8", things you just can't teach, and he has those things. So I'm looking forward to everything. And yeah, 5-6 years, especially with Chet a part of the program now, being healthy and being on the court. I think the sky's the limit. Western Conference Finals for sure, and hopefully the Larry OB.
Hey man, I am super high on Chet. I think he's going to be very, very good. I think that the way that he wants to compete tremendously, and how like he's already been in workouts with Kevin and a bunch of the other elite of the elite NBA talent. A lot of people are high on Chet, and I feel like him not playing his first year, he got a chance to watch and learn from a lot of the things that were going on with them on the basketball floor. So now coming into year two, you get a chance to plug a big in that system who can, block shots at the rim, space the floor, do, a ton of pick and pops, and even sometimes operate with the ball in his hands to, go at switches. I think Chet is the last piece for OKC in terms of structurally that makes their team make sense. I still think at the early stages of his career, you're probably going to have one other big man to help Chet ease his way into that 5 spot sometime in the future. But Chet's skill and talent with Mark's genius, with Shai's raw athleticism in terms of getting to the basket and his skill, this is a team that's going to have size, length, and skill, which equals versatility. And we always say in our talks, Wes, versatility is really what determines if a team can win a title or not in the future.
Yep, is my mic still good? Just some things over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We just recently talked about lineup versatility on Twitter. We had a space about that, and how lineup versatility to our little community of ball talkers is one of the most important things to building a championship roster, and having just that flexibility 1 through 8 at least, to where you have players who can play multiple different positions, but also who check a lot of different boxes on both sides of the floor. So having those, 4 or 5 players who can all be ball handlers, can all penetrate, catch and shoot, slashers, all of those things all combined in one for about 4 or 5 different players on your roster. How seamless that makes it, when you're building a roster to compete at the highest level.
Yeah, that type of stuff matters. Obviously, the team that won this year, Denver, I mean, the size and the length that they had multiple different looks that they could give a team defense. And with Shai, like, what I like about his game is, as good as he is, I feel like he can also be a complementary player in terms of fitting around in a system and maximizing other talents, because he has the size, he has the frame to be a pretty solid defender on the other end. And then again, the way that he can just catch the ball and go, he really determines the pace of his defender every single time. It's kind of Luka-esque, but in his own natural way. And I think when you pair
Right.
that with Josh's passing and Chet's skill at that size with J Dub's like strength, this is a team that can just throw you many different looks. And again, last year they were the most up and down team in the league. I will never forget, Wes, when y'all played the Boston Celtics, when they came into OKC and y'all blew them out without Shai by like 50
Right.
something points. That was crazy.
Yeah, man. Crazy game. And it shows you. It goes to show how having multiple ball handlers, playmakers, size, length, how much that matters, and having the proper shooting. You got to have those floor spacers as well. And I think we've done a good job thus far of doing that, and actually being able to stay young in the process at the same time, because that's another important thing. Um, Not mortgaging too much of your youth while you're building that championship team, especially almost from scratch. With our hard
Yeah.
rebuild and the crazy pivot we took after the 19th season.
Yeah, it like I'm sorry. People got to give OKC more credit because the amount of draft capital y'all have. Like literally, if you chose to blow up this build and just say, okay, let's go get this guy or that guy or that guy, you have the most capital of any team in the league to make that vision a reality. So in terms of like 4 years or 5 years, people say, well, Shai's 24 or 25. How does he fit long term? Shai's still young and he's still a very good player. And if OKC finds themselves in position to contend, they can make it work around Shai because they have the framework with the both player assets but the draft capital to make it happen. I don't really get why people try to say, okay, well, Shai has to go because he's young and this and that. He just signed. Like, I'm pretty sure Shai will be a Oklahoma City Thunder in the next 4 years.
I agree. I don't think that his timetable doesn't align with us. I think it all aligns together. And excuse me, that's why I give Sam so much credit, from all of the decisions he's made, from the players we've drafted to signing Mark and trusting him to lead us into our next journey as a team and as an organization. I think that everything has been like to a T. And even though that the odds haven't always gone or worked in our favor when it comes to the lottery, we've still been able to get really solid players who had an immediate impact amongst touching the NBA, as opposed to being, super long projects. We do have those projects as well, though, in Usman Jane, but we've also been able to get Giddies. We've also been able to get J Dubs, who I didn't expect to be that good his rookie season. But, he pleasantly surprised me, and I think a lot of the fan base as well, and just the ability to do things like that, while also keeping an SGA locked in and not having him be ready to give up on the program and on the rebuild, because we were able to be competitive when he wanted us to be competitive. Keeping Dort in the system and, all the things he provides defensively, and how strong he is and how heady he is at his position and things of that nature, and how he can always scale up, even though he's a two guard. I think he's just, Presti has done an amazing job, as usual, as always. So.
Even in this draft, which we talked about it, like right, like I kind of felt like this year, this really could have been a year where they say, okay, we're gonna dump as many draft picks as possible, and let's get Scoot, and let's pair him with Shai and really take off. I know you want that bad, right?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to happen. That's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like that type of athleticism in a backcourt, bro. I really want you to like really focus on that vision because you brought this idea up, and like I thought about it, and it's like they have all this draft capital, and this draft is a rich draft, especially top three. I feel like the next year is kind of in question. After that should be really good with, I believe, Cooper Flag and maybe Kean
Mhm.
Anthony, maybe. But for you personally, why did Scoot appease you so much in terms of giving up a lot of draft assets this year?
You know, for the people who, when they hear this, won't know or don't know, excuse me, Russell Westbrook is my favorite player of all time. And I think he a lot of his good attributes in a Scoot, but I also see Scoot having the ability to be better in some of the areas where I feel Russ is weak. And Scoot's downhill rim pressure, his ability to get in the lane and kick out, still see the floor, the passing, the playmaking, and it's so natural. You can tell when you see a player who is working through the kinks and trying to become a better playmaker, but then you can also tell when you see that player who naturally is a heady point guard and just has all these other attributes to make him such a dominant scorer with the athleticism and this understanding the game and his spots and where he wants to score on the court, how he wants to get to his spots, what he wants to do after that, reading things prior to them happening. All of those things, I just felt like um, Scoop would be a great fit. And then also defensively, he wants it. You see a lot of young guys who are really locked in on that end, don't really want to compete on both sides of the ball. But Scoop, you can't say that about. He wants to compete offensively and defensively, and just that tandem with SGA. SGA being the best at getting to the rim in the league, and then by the way, we're gonna drop Scoop in the mix. Let any backcourt try to deal with that. Let any front court try to protect the rim against those two, and it's going to be a lot of nightmares. So I thought it would have made sense, but I'm still trusting our vision, especially because, like I said earlier, every year there's another player who you didn't expect to ask out to ask out. And
Yep.
every year there's another superstar who is growing unhappy and is looking at greener pastures. And us staying pat and being ready to, make any move we need to make in the future, I think that's a smart move.
Especially under the new CBA, which is going to be way stricter, way more limiting on all of these other teams. Like draft capital and asset management are at the forefront when it comes down to roster construction in the NBA. And I feel like we live right now in a place where a lot of people, for the most part, go through these instances of saying, okay, we need to win now. So let's trade all of our draft capital. Let's trade all of our young, great players to make it work now. And when it doesn't work, they now are in cap hell and in, team flexibility hell for multiple years. OKC is in the complete opposite of that, to where they can zig or zag however they want, whatever year they want, because they have the picks, and more importantly, the development of the players right now. As good as J-Dub is right now, right? The better J-Dub is, the more of an asset he will be to another team if you have to zig or zag. Like that flexibility is great. But at the same time, to be fair, I will say this. Flexibility is amazing to have, but at a certain point you do have to commit to a vision. You don't want to just say on paper we have all of these draft picks and then not really make much of anything with it, because ultimately they are going to be judged by what they do with these draft picks.
Agreed. And that's another conversation we've had in the past about teams having direction and all of their moves fitting that direction? And do they all merge together as one? And do they complement each other? And I feel like, to your point, OKC at this point has done that. And if there is a big chip to fall, I think we'll be right there with whoever we have to mortgage outside of SGA and Chet. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I kind of want to ask you though. So this year, how did you feel about the Case and Wallace pick?
Man, I was super stoked. I like his off ball utility. I like his on ball utility. I like his ability to defend. And like I said, versatility on offense between being able to be utilized on and off the ball and still be complementary. A lot of players in today's league, especially as lead guards, are so ball dominant and they need the
Yes.
ball to really establish their rhythm. They need the ball to impact the game. And Hassan isn't that, you know. He proved at Kentucky that whether he's in an on-ball role or an off-ball role, he can be effective. And then we all know defensively, he's just another. He's a first-team All NBA guy
He's getting Drew
or
Holiday
team all
comparisons.
defense guy. Yeah, first team all defense guy, ready, waiting to happen. So, I was excited. I was pleased with the pick. I like his work in summer league as well. And the more he works on that three ball and just stretching the floor, super dangerous, man. And you know, I don't remember who did you just say he was getting compared to?
They compared him to Drew Holiday.
I was just about to say myself, I see a lot of Drew Holiday in him, with a higher upside in terms of being, a shooter. Although the past 2 years, Drew's been an amazing shooter. And his off the dribble numbers are crazy. But yeah, if Kassan, even though he doesn't have that same size, if he can fill that role, especially like just on ball POA, I think that could bode really well for our future, as well, because you know that'll give us all the flexibility and versatility we need.
I view OKC as a team that a lot of teams in the future are going to try to copycat, because what they've effectively done is they've made a roster of guys that have strength, size, a bunch of switchability, but can play different styles. They don't have the non-spacer guy in Chet. Chet's skill and talent, he can do, ball handles. He can do a inverted pick and roll if he needed to. He can also rebound the basketball and push the pace. Having interchangeable ball handlers gives you so many different looks, and what matters in the playoffs is there's so many limited possessions where your skill players are gonna stand out a lot more, because they're gonna throw the biggest guys at Shai. That's gonna happen. So having other plans of attack outside of Shai is key to them, having long-term success. And I think that J Dub, I mean, this guy was one of the best rookies last year. Arguably, for a lot of people, he was the best rookie in terms of his efficiency. You don't see rookies come in like that talented, understanding exactly what to do, not just on offense, but also on the defensive end as well. Like the size and the talent there, he can be a real bruising type of scoring wing for Oklahoma. And 2 years or 3 years, when Shai is in his prime, we're expecting to see the best version of all of these guys. And this team can be so crazy to me.
Agreed. Was really impressed with J Dub last year, and then seeing his off season, him bulking up,
He
and
big as hell.
exactly. And I just saw a post yesterday on IG. He's trimmed down again, but when you bulk up and then you trim, you keep that strength. You just lose the weight, and that's necessary for the up and down nature of the NBA. But I was pleased with J Dub last year, and again, like when a guy comes in and he's better than you expect and better than you anticipated, you know that next step is going to be, just super gratifying. And that's the thing about J-Dub that I'm eager to see this year, how he improves as an off-ball shooter and as a decision maker in the half court when he gets the ball, how he attacks closeouts. If him looking to pass at the right time, him looking to score at the right time, and then defensively just continuing to do what he does. I love his ability to scale up and down, and I think that was really important for us last year. And I hope he can continue to stay on that same trajectory. And yeah, anything can happen with him, man, because 23 years old. Um, Old for a second year player, but still young in the grand scheme of things. And he's showing that um, he already improved a lot from Santa Clara to his rookie season. And who knows what's next to come.
I think when you come into the league with an NBA prepared body already, and you're still not in the best version of yourself, regardless of like how old you are, as long as you're not, obviously like 26, right? But coming in that young still with that frame, he's gonna fill out. What surprised me is I thought initially he was gonna be like this big dude that could just play defense or slash, but the ball handle is live and real. And I'm like, at that size, for him to look so comfortable with ball handling and more importantly, taking pull up shots at his like strength and size, it's like, my goodness. And then you pair that with again Shai and Chet, who are they're both tall. There's like for all these guys at their positions, they're tall. And that's where the
Right.
league is going. Like the size and the skill collectively is gonna make things crazy, crazy. And in my opinion, that's why OKC was able to sustain a top 10 caliber defense, because while they didn't have a true back line, they had so many guys that were pesky in terms of POA defense and really getting into you that
Exactly.
they didn't need the back line as much.
Agreed. And then it didn't hurt to have a guy on the back line in Jalen Williams, who was so good at taking timely charges, knowing how to be in the right place at the right time, and using his length and his headiness to defend versus his size, because he's undersized at 6'9". But yeah, I was really pleased, and I agree with you. The versatility we have between Dort and J Dub to go be POAs, Dort, you get on the lead guard. J Dub, you get on the best wing scorer. And then SGA, you pitch in with your length and your headiness. Giddy, we put you on the worst offensive player, but you still, pitch in with being able to read lanes and just picking up sets and using your headiness to be a good defender and pitch in when need be. And then, like I said, with Jay Will, last year and what he provided. But then now putting Chet in that starting lineup and you being able to protect the rim, give us some help side, backside defense, anything that we need. I think we have in our versatility. So I'm pleased.
And for all these things right here, how we broke down, that brings us to what happened this season. Because again, OKC was a team that a lot of people felt was going to be a bottom feeder team. They were going to be like this team that was super duper competitive. And up and down throughout the entire season, they competed with the best of them. They smashed every time they played the Lakers. They gave Golden State really good competition. They blew out the Boston Celtics by 50 points without Shai Gilgeous even playing basketball. Time and time again, they shattered expectations. And then in the postseason, while they didn't make the playoffs, I think those two play-in games were critical for their development. I think in the first game, that up and down affair they had where it was Shai versus Brandon Ingram and they were trading bucket for bucket at the highest level. I think that was big. And at the same time, them playing a team in the Timberwolves who were just taller, bigger, and used their size against them also showed areas where they could get better. What were your thoughts about their season in terms of how far they made it? And what was the biggest difference in the two playing games in your mind?
Yeah, man. I reiterate, like from earlier, I was pleased with the way the season went. Um, Being in a position to make the play-in, um, given all the adversity we faced last year, to still overcome that and be in a position to eventually make the playoffs, was super important to me. Then getting to the play-in and facing New Orleans and seeing SGA be able to go toe to toe with another really good player in the NBA, who at that time, Brandon Ingram, man, he was on such a run to close the season.
I agree.
Health was the only thing that has ever held him back. Like when he's fully healthy, he's always in the mix for just really good players, really good hoopers, and for SGA to trade buckets with them, to be able to always have an answer, and then the team as a whole to stay engaged, because New Orleans was in the play-in last year and they won both of their play-in games, and then got to the first round and took two off of Phoenix, who the year before was just in the finals. And to see us be able to go in, and if I'm not mistaken, we were in New Orleans. Go in
Yes.
New Orleans and beat them on the road in a must-win game to keep our season alive. I thought it was really impressive, and it showed me a lot about just the maturity of our team. And then going to face Minnesota and just how lopsided of a matchup it was, dealing with Rudy and Cat, and then also Kyle Anderson, who has size and is heady. Um, Anthony Edwards, a budding star in this league. Mike Conley, a veteran, understanding those moments. Never be, that moment will never be too big for him. And though we didn't win, it was still nice to see us compete after getting down big, trying to roar back, and SGA having a bad first half and coming out in the second half and really putting on a show. Um, Even in a losing effort, I was still glad that, we just had the journey last year. We were able to see us grow at each step, even leading into the play-in. All of those games were pivotal for us.
Oh yeah.
We had to win so many of those games, and we went and we did that. And that gave me a lot of promise for the future. So,
Yeah, that West right there is why I'm higher on the play-in than most people. Because for
mm,
teams like OKC, for those younger teams who can still be in the mix, at the end of your season, you're basically playing your version of these are playoff games because we need to get these games to advance to get any further. Otherwise, we're out. And that race in the West, I mean, we know exactly what it was. One day, I believe the Pelicans were literally the 1 seed, and within 4 games they dropped to the
right,
13 seed. Like it,
right,
it's that neck and neck in the West. So all those games down the stretch absolutely matter for OKC, and you saw the development and the growth from many players on the team towards the end of their season. So even though they didn't make the playoffs, they played meaningful basketball games. And what matters most in developing these players and getting them to where we expect them to be is getting that experience in games that matter.
right. Being in all of those moments, I think it bodes well for this season, because no moment will be too big, no light will be too bright. And I think that's how you build um, teams that are ready for the 4 rounds in the playoffs as opposed to just the 82, you know. So I was happy with that.
Well, now that we've officially gone through the entire past season, it's time to put you on wax here, Wes. And listen, this is hard, okay? I want to be clear. The Western Conference is deep. It's a very good collection of talent for all the teams involved here. I feel like a lot of people are higher on OKC to go much further. But for you, what are your expectations of the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Right, man. It's funny because I just had this conversation not too long ago, but I do expect a 6 game improvement this season. Um, and I expect us to be in a position to where we're either the 7th seed hosting a playoff game, or hosting both play-in games. Excuse me. If we end up having to play two, or us being the 6th seed and being able to have a full series. But I do see 46 wins, give or take one, because I could see 45, but pretty firm at 46. And yeah, I just see us being in a position to where we are probably still in the play-in as the 7th seed, but being in a position to host both play-in games if we need them to get in the playoffs. Meaning, if we need to, assuming we would lose the first one, I think that'll be great for us. And it's always like little baby steps. So I expect that. I do see a first round exit coming this year, but no matter who the matchup is, I feel like we'll push them 6 games. I trust SGA to get one regardless. And then with the development for the other guys and just having Chet, assuming health for everyone, I think we'll be in a position to where we'll be able to get 2 games no matter who it is. And with us being a bottom, tier seed, being the 7th seed going up against a 2 or potentially an 8th going up against a 1, being able to get 2 games, I would say is a success for me
Yeah.
personally. And it being our first real year with this regime in the playoffs. So yeah, that's what I'm anticipating.
I think those are fair expectations, and I feel like the NBA community is very weird because how do you go from this team is going to be at the bottom of the conference, they're not going to be great at all, to if you don't make the playoffs, it's a failure. Like how they set people up with these expectations and don't just let people go out there and hoop. It kills the sport a lot of times for me, Wes. Like let them be good, let them play meaningful games, let them get better, and it's baby steps. There are steps to becoming that team that wins, right? Denver for many years had to take time to get their chemistry, find out how to play together, be good, get that continuity, then they won. It takes time.
Right. Experience and taking your lumps. There's no way to fast track that. You got to go through that. You have to go through the disappointments, the heartbreaks, the close but yet so far at the same time moments, and you know, it does nothing but build character, um, help maturity in those moments, and then also, like I said, the overall experience. You cannot, you know, escape it. You've got to get a certain level of experience. Even with your team, the Warriors, you all had to take your lumps in the playoffs before you ended up becoming champions, and then the dynasty was there soon after. So, yeah, it's bound to happen, and I just appreciate the journey.
Yeah, I think those are really well said words because again, we live in an era, and honestly, this is a bit bigger than basketball, but I feel like we live in a time where people expect instantaneous results. There shouldn't be any waiting. I have this phone, it's a high quality phone. I want my results now, now, now. But back in the day, we understood it took more time to get things done. For instance, Devin Booker, he spent multiple years on a team that was terrible. They drafted badly, but now the franchise and that organization found a way to get talent around him and they made a finals run. Like sometimes you have to let things breathe, but it obviously has to make sense. So I'm 100% with you there. This season for me is all about the inward development of Chet getting NBA burn with this roster, the team adjusting to him, J Dub getting featured more as a bigger offensive player in the system even more, and obviously Shai
Right.
just continuing to get better and replicating what he did last year. I feel like if all three of those things are met and this team, has a chance to be in the playoffs yet again, I think that's great. Honestly.
Agreed. Agreed. I'm right there with you, man. I think all of those points that you touched on were very important, and I think that's how things will go for us. I do think that's the path to success, as well as getting Giddy to just continue to do the things that he does well, even better, and then improving on those, finite weaknesses in his game that could take him from a really good player to an all-star caliber player, potentially down the line, all NBA level. So yeah, man, just seeing all those things improve, and like both of us have said, that internal development can't put a price on it, and I think our organization is one of the best at that. from our past regime and seeing, Durant and Russ, Ibaka, Harden, Steven Adams, the list goes on, all become better players in our organization, and go from here to here and, whatever aspect, to now SGA and Giddy and Dort and J Dub and Chet. Now Kassan's a part of the program. And just seeing everyone improve and make those subtle but also important adjustments to their games
Yep.
will bode well for success.
Yeah, 100%. I'm 100% there with you, Wes. Quickly zooming out from OKC, as an NBA fan, what are your expectations for the season? Do you think we'll have a better year this year than last year? What are you really excited about? What is on your mind as an NBA fan ahead of the 2024 season?
Help, man. Help. Gotta knock on wood, man. Just need help. And that's, if we can get a season where, for the, most part, everyone's healthy and we get to see those top dogs at the end of the year battle, but with help, not a bunch of injuries, not a bunch of weird stuff going on, everyone being healthy and getting everybody's best shot. I'm eager to see. And from the top, like, you go to the East, eager to see, how the Bucks adjust with their new coach and what he implements. If he brings in a new system, if he puts Giannis in better positions to succeed, if Middleton can get back to his old self, all those things, if they can all come together, how good the Bucks will be. Can they get back to championship prominence? Can they get back to being a powerhouse, or are they still, so close but so far at the same time? Boston, the addition of KP, the subtraction of Marcus Smart, and Grant Williams, how everything goes well. Now Jaylen Brown, one of my favorite players, is a supermax guy. Hey, can you step up? Can you clean up some of the weaknesses in your game? And Tatum, can you definitively make yourself a top 5 NBA player, and a perennial MVP caliber player? And does that, continue for you? KP, how do you fit into a system being, a third again? Can you be that tertiary star? Or are you going to complain and be upset about touches and not be happy, and then everything goes, pew? Malcolm Brogdon, can he get healthy? Derek White, can he improve on a really, really good season last year?
Yeah.
And Rob Will, Al Horford, can they stay healthy? How many miles does Al have left? He's getting up there in age. No small feat. Harden with the Sixers. Can
Oh
they
yeah.
repair it? Can they repair it? Does he end up elsewhere? Does he get what he wants, or does Morey get what he wants? Um, so many different storylines. Embiid, can you make up for one of the most embarrassing playoff performances I've ever seen personally from an MVP? You know how I feel about him. Yeah, man, so many different things, man. Um, Down to the bottom of the conference, Masai, will you finally stop being stingy and move off of some of these pieces? Can OG find another home? Do you end up just blowing everything up and sending Pascal somewhere? So many different things. Can Gary Trent Jr. be a shooter on a contender that takes them from contenders to championship glory? And then we can go to the West and, you know, can Denver repeat? How do they make up for losing Bruce Brown? Jeff Green, even though he didn't have a big role, he was still a veteran and he played quality playoff minutes for them.
Yep.
Um, can Peyton Watson and Christian Brown make up for that? Um, can they make it a full 82 with Reggie Jackson as their backup point guard? Pretty nasty work over there. But Nikola Jokic and Mike Malone and Jamal Murray, I think a lot of people trust. Shout out MPJ and Aaron Gordon as well. The Suns. Hey, what can you all make happen? Can you all figure it out? KD, D Book, Bradley Beal, DeAndre Ayton still there. Now Frank Vogel at the helm.
Yeah.
How does this all work? Can you all make up for depth with just your top heaviness? And can your players step up to the plate and get the job done? Can you stay healthy as well? Kevin Durant, still a phenomenal basketball player, but age and attrition catches up to everybody, and he hasn't had a long season in a while. So can he get back to that? D Book, can he have a season where his hamstrings don't linger and bother him again? Brad, can he stay healthy? Brad is always dealing with something. And Aiton, can he just lock in, man?
Yeah, he
Can
lock
can you
in.
can you prove that you were worthy of that number one overall pick, or is it just time for them to everybody to wash their hands with the situation and move on? Then going to Memphis, can they, sustain without Ja? And how does Marcus Smart fit into the equation? Uh, Sacramento, can you all build off of a really good year and take it up another notch? Or are you going to prove a lot of people right? A lot of the naysayers who feel like they're going to come back down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
Can you replicate the success from last year? The Clippers,
The
Warriors.
Clippers.
Clippers, can you stay healthy? Can Kawhi actually be, healthy for a playoff run? PG, can he be healthy for a playoff run?
Are you gonna lose
Um,
both of these stars while Shea turns into a superstar, and now you fully
exactly,
lose the trade? Like, yeah.
exactly. Does Russ coming in help you for the regular season? Like having him a full season, does he raise your floor, or is it another disaster class like it was across the hall with the Lakers? And then for your team, the Warriors, hey man, can you all do what needs to be done around Steph to extend his championship window, or do we see his glory days come to an end and him still being top three player in the world, but not having the necessary pieces to compete deep in the playoffs now? So many different things to talk about, so many things to be excited about. Can Rudy and Cat get it together? Or is that a matching that just should have never been made? So yeah, I'm super excited, really eager to have basketball back. We're a little under a month away, or I think what's today's date?
It's the third.
The third. So yeah, we're a little under a month away. Well, a little over a month away. Excuse me. And just seeing how everything will shape out, I'm happy.
Yeah, man. I think that's well said. There's a lot of storylines here because there's so many teams who have answers they need to have by the end of the year. There could be so much player movement this upcoming off season, and that's why we said earlier, if you're a team that has that flexibility and the draft capital and the assets to trade, you'll be in prime position for next year. Giannis, is he going to resign? He's not signing right now. Kawhi and Paul George could both walk. Like, there's other
Uh-huh.
things at stake here. So to me, as an NBA fan, I'm gonna be eating. I can't wait to sit here and watch these games. West, this year, I'm gonna be doing something different. Last year, I tried to watch 4 or 5 games at a time. I'm not doing that shit no more. I'm gonna watch one game. I'm gonna have a spreadsheet, and I'm gonna literally track how many games I watch. So if I hop in a space and they say gifted, how many games you watch, I'm gonna be able to tell you the exact number of games I watch for these ball teams because there's a lot going on
Right.
this year.
Agreed, agreed. And a lot of good rookies coming into the league, man. Shout the Thompson twins. Shout Scoot as well. Wimby, generational talent. Can he live up to the hype? Possibly exceed it. A lot of good things coming in to this season. So I'm excited. I know you are as well. I know the whole community is excited. and just eager to see some good hoops this year, man. You're muted. Your mic. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I do that
No,
oftentimes to make sure the audio is good. But I want to say,
yeah.
Wes, I appreciate you stopping by on this episode of the Gifted Hoops podcast, man. We've been grinding all off season. I've been watching all types of hoops. So when the season starts, we're officially going to be taking off even more. So I appreciate you contributing to that. Dope basketball mind, y'all. So make sure to give Wes a follow. His links and all that will be in the description and the comments as well. Wes, are there any final words you want to say before we get up out of here?
Man, just thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I've since the day I met you on Twitter, man, um, I felt honored to be connected to you, um, to bounce ideas off of you, to just talk hoops. You know, so many of us, maybe in our close knit circles at home, might not have that community, but on Twitter, you know, possibilities are endless. There's so many of us that love the game and want, you know, are passionate about it, want to talk about it. So, again, yeah, just thank you for the opportunity. Want to continue to lift you up, and shed the proper light and flowers on you with everything you're doing, leading in a positive way, in a great manner, and grinding, bro. Always grinding. So, thank you, and you know, continued success. You know, I'll always be here to support. And yeah, here's to a great season, man. Wish we had some shot glasses. But yeah, bro, you're muted again.
I'll be doing this a lot on this podcast. Appreciate you, Wes. I appreciate those kind words. I can't wait for the season to start. For those of you who made it all the way to the end, you can tap in with this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube at Gifted Hoops. All things Gifted Hoops. And we will catch you guys next week for some more NBA content. Peace out, people. Have a good one. Peace.